Until next time, keep thinking the very good thoughts. I'm Rona Barrett, and you will see Ken Boxer live next on TV SB.
Terry Ryken Realtor proudly presents Ken Boxer Live. From the American Riviera in Santa Barbara, California, it's Ken Boxer Live, Santa Barbara's one and only entertainment talk show. Let's welcome the host of the show, Ken Boxer.
Thank you so very much. Wow. Thank you. I'm Ken Boxer, and this is my co-host, Cate Imperio, everybody. Thank you. Cate, I noticed right away you have a hoarse voice. How'd that?
That is correct. This weekend I was down in LA. I was interviewing a bunch of artists at the Beverly Hills Art Show, which was 4 blocks of Santa Monica Boulevard, as well as DomCon on Sunday. So I am voiced out. I was preparing, basically, I think, for the interview that was going to happen today. Because today, on our show, we have the interviewer of all interviewers.
Well, tell us, who's on the show tonight?
We have, as Variety calls, the woman who changed entertainment news into business and is now a senior advocate. Rona Barrett is going to be here with us tonight. So stay tuned, you don't want to miss it.
Ken Boxer Live is brought to you by the following sponsors. Palazzo Italian Restaurant, where people don't leave there hungry or thirsty. Harborview Inn. Welcome to Santa Barbara's premier 4-diamond luxury boutique oceanfront hotel. The Eagle Inn, a family-owned hotel near the beach in Santa Barbara. And now, back to our show.
Thank you so very much. It's very nice of you. Okay, joining us tonight is the woman who is the pioneer in the entertainment industry. I can't tell you, when I saw her many years ago, I mean, she just, to my heart, she was the person that I wanted to copy. And she's just, as I said, the pioneer of her genre. Now she's retired, but she's been a very successful author and now the founder and CEO of the Rona Barrett Foundation, making her very first appearance on our program, the very talented Rona Barrett, everybody. I am so serious. It's so nice to have you because you've been my mentor for so many years. And
really? And I never met you?
And we've
that is so exciting.
No, but from a distance, I've watched your career and just loved
Best
what you've
from
done.
A distance.
Not too far of a distance.
No, it's cute.
Tell our audience, where did it begin for you? How did you get into this business?
You don't have enough time for that.
Oh.
You really don't.
Okay, let's go back.
Because I started at 13, and if I were to take you through my whole career, we would land up where we are right now and what I'm doing today.
Well, we're going to...
How about the fan club, 13?
13, the fan club, yes.
Started a fan club.
I started a fan club for a guy who was about to become the biggest singer in the country named Eddie Fisher. And that's all that I will say about that.
Beautiful.
Is that okay?
No, that's perfect.
Okay.
I mean, you're so young.
Would you consider yourself an overachiever at 13?
No, I really wasn't an overachiever. I was just somebody who made up my mind when I was 5 years old that I would make something of myself. And it wasn't that it just came overnight, although it was only one little incident that eventually occurred that changed my whole thinking and what it was that I wanted to do. And it was a day, I was 5 years old, I had just started kindergarten, and a group of kids decided to follow me home from school. And that's because my teacher had told them that I looked very different, and not to make fun of me, and not to stare at me. And of course, what do children do? They stare and they look and they say, well, God, she looks really fat, and she looks very heavy, and God, she's not very pretty, and all of that sort of thing. And my mother did not come to pick me up that day. And for some reason, I do not know why, it was lunchtime. So I was not allowed to cross the street, and I was 1 block away from my home. So I decided to walk across the street, and I sort of hobbled. I sort of was like a duck. I walked and waddled like a duck. And the kids started following me, and what had happened is that I had been taken to a hospital, and one of the doctors said, let's put a brace on her, because maybe if we put a brace, it would straighten her back, it would straighten her legs. And of course, my parents never knew what was wrong with me. They took me from doctor to doctor my whole life, until one day at 13, I changed everything, and I looked at my mother outside a hospital, and I said, you will never take me to another hospital as long as I live. And she slapped me, and she said, as long as there is breath in me, I will take you wherever it takes me to find out what's wrong with you. And I said, that may be your ideas, but they're not mine. And we never hardly spoke again
At
after.
13?
That was right before it all started for me. But anyway, the point is that a bunch of kids followed me home from school. They were calling me all kinds of names, fatty, ugly, look at the way she walks, and they sort of circled me like the wagons when the Indians were allegedly coming in the movies. Right. And I got caught on a tree that had just been recently tarred because somebody had carved their initials in the tree, and the superintendent of the building where I lived always wanted to keep his buildings upright, and so he tarred the tree so the tree wouldn't die. And I got stuck to the tree, and they were taking branches and trying to hit me with the branches, and a friend came by and she said, what the heck are you doing? And so she tried to pull me from the tree, and doing that I fell on the floor and I couldn't get up, and she had a tough time because you suddenly were dead weight. And she got me finally inside the door of our building, and I couldn't take the elevator up to our apartment floor because my mother told me I could never go into an elevator by myself. But I did. But I said, no, maybe she'll yell at me again, and maybe I'll, whatever. And so I grabbed hold of the banister of leading the stairs up to the apartment, up to where my apartment was, and the kids were pressing their faces against the window of the 2 doors that do not open because they were electronically controlled. And the kids started calling me all these names, and suddenly I turned around and I said, one day I'm going to be so famous, you are never going to be able to call me names.
Way to go.
Story.
That's right.
And as I went up the stairs, I made up my mind. I was either going to be a lawyer, and I was going to take care of people who could not take care of themselves, or I was going to be a doctor in research, or I'd have something to do with entertainment because I wanted to be an opera star. And that was it.
Here's your chance. Opera.
No, I have a voice like hers is right now.
Well, we're so glad you took the path to entertainment, because we have a clip of your interview early on with Cher.
Yeah. Let's take a look.
So let's take a look of your
Okay.
interview with Cher. In her bedroom, I presume. It was where it was
I'll
taken.
tell you
Check it
about
out.
that.
Okay, let's watch Rona Barrett.
If I go to bed with somebody, I want to have something to talk to them about afterwards. I want to be in love. I'll never forget, we were going to go swimming. And he said, go put your bathing suit on. And he came running in with anticipation and all that, and he looked at me and he said, my God, look at you, you're skin and bones. He said, you've got to eat or do something. Is that it? And I said, yeah, that's it. I was really bummed out. So he held my hand 3 months after I knew him. We were in a movie, and in the middle of this movie, he held my hand. And I thought, well, what does this mean? But whatever it was, I liked him, and I liked it, and it was really terrific.
Oh, yeah. Everybody, Rona Barrett's joining us this half hour. Cate.
Rona, I have to ask you,
Happy turn.
Do you prefer to do interviews, or did you prefer in your own safe space, or your artists, your own comfort zone, or theirs? Because, there you're in her bedroom.
Well, Cher had agreed to do this interview. It took me 8 months to convince everybody to do these interviews. This was the first special I had ever done for ABC or for anyone. And I knew I wanted to ask questions of people that I knew the public really would like to know answers to. And so I had to convince everybody to allow me to explore them in more ways than one. And so when I walked into Cher's house, it was a house I knew fairly well because Jane Mansfield used to live in it, and that was a famous lady who would open up markets and things like that. But anyway, I said to her, "Where would you like to do this interview? I want you to be very comfortable." And she said to me, "Why don't we go up to my bedroom and do it on my bed?"
That's wonderful.
And that was the truth, and that's how I got to be on Cher's bed.
Great story.
It's great.
Great story.
What's the most out of the ordinary place you've done an interview? Is that it, or do you?
No, I can't say. I mean, I've always done interviews where people felt most comfortable being, and if it was on a set, it was on a set. If it was at their home, it was in their home. But I wanted people to get to know that I was interested in who they were. My whole life is basically, as I said to you before, was really to find out what makes people tick. Who are they? What was inside of them? Why do people sort of fall for certain people, and why are these people stars? And what makes a star? And so I explored all kinds of questions that I wanted to know myself about all these people, and I guess they finally realized that I was truly interested in them, and that is why I asked the questions that I asked.
I love it.
Is that why
Go as deep as you
Rona,
can go.
is that why they tend to open up to you during the interviews?
Well, I've asked people sometimes that question, but their PR people always said to me, they really believe you're interested because you do make them feel that you are very interested in what they have to say and all the thoughts that they have, or why did they become who they became. And that was the whole thing. I think of one of the last interviews I probably did in a long time ago was with Johnny Carson. And he asked me one night, I was on his show, and I was shocked because for years he would say, Rona Barrett doesn't need a knife. All she has to do is use her tongue. And my mother and father would be home watching these things, and they say, "How could he say such things like that?" And so on the show, I was very surprised the day he asked me to come and be a guest on his show. And he then looked at me and he said, "So tell me, who haven't you interviewed and who would you very much like to interview?" I said, "There are only two people." And he said, "Who are they?" I said, "Mrs. Onassis and you." And he said, "Okay, go ahead." And that's what he said. It's all on film. I'm not lying.
Did you ever get to
So the
interview
first
Cate?
question, I said to myself, "Dear God, what do I ask?" And I looked at him and I said, "Tell me about your relationship with your mother." And that was it. That was it. He started talking.
Nice.
And I knew that I had hit
A nerve?
a nerve. Absolutely. I knew that I hit a nerve. And when he wanted to get out of what he was saying, he then went to a funny line, and I
Sure.
would say something like, "So how did you become a comedian?" He said, "I bought it in Chicago."
But you're also a great listener. You listen to what the interviewee is saying, and you can roll with whatever they're saying.
Well, I realized a long time ago, I'd write these notes, and I would have everything down, and what was I going to say, blah, 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 blah. And suddenly somebody would say something to me, and I said, I can't use the next question. It was to myself, and I then would go with what they had just said. They said, what I loved about being an actor was when I would sit in the bathtub, And I realized that the role I was playing, I could be so mean, so nasty, and so rotten, which I could never be in real life. And it was one of those actors who was always playing a meanie in movies.
Have you ever
Being in the moment.
In the moment.
Have you ever thought about why we celebrate celebrities?
Yeah, I have given it some
And
thought.
how do you respond?
I think that America's always been fascinated with English royalty. And since we didn't have kings and queens, the people who were kings and queens, actually PR people made them into kings and queens, were the people in Hollywood.
That's actually amazing.
And therefore a star was considered, in many ways, really a 5-star star, was considered, you know, a king of Hollywood pictures, a king of television, queen of television, all of those kinds of things.
And if you didn't interview them, they were nothing, right?
Well,
you were somebody
That's
if you
a
got the
great time
interview.
to lead into our next clip, I think, about the royalty
Absolutely,
aspect.
you're right.
Well, I think I know what you're going to lead to right now,
Let's
and that
go-
was really...
Check this out. You're
Let's
gonna
go to
not
this
wanna
clip.
miss this.
You and Donald Trump. Let's watch.
Let's leave it at that.
Let's watch Rona
For
Barrett.
some people, the ultimate goal in life has been becoming the President of the United States. Would you like to be the President of the United States?
I really don't believe I would, Rona, but I would like to see somebody as the president who could do the job, and there are very capable people in this country.
Why wouldn't you dedicate yourself to public service?
Because I think it's a very mean life. I would love and I would dedicate my life to this country, but I see it as being a mean life, and I also see it as somebody with strong views and somebody with the kind of views that are maybe a little bit unpopular, which may be right, but may be unpopular, wouldn't necessarily have a chance of getting elected against somebody with no great brain but a big smile.
So the first thing I have to ask you, sorry I keep returning, is that a question that you've asked many people during your interviews? Or is
No.
that just clairvoyance at its finest right there, you know?
I would have to say it was what he was saying to me before, and I suddenly said to him, well, you obviously are interested in politics, or you're interested in what's going on in this country, because this was a special called The Self-Made Rich in America. And I then said to him, do you think you'd ever want to be the President
Yeah.
of the United States? And that's when he said, no, I do not.
I just think it's amazing, obviously.
It was amazing in 1980 that I would ask him that question. It's 40 years since then.
And you predicted it.
And basically, that's what happened.
And that clip's getting a lot of airplay.
And that clip is getting a lot of airplay now.
I want to give you a lot of airplay on something else, what you're involved with. We want to talk about your fundraiser and what you're doing right now in your career as the CEO of the Rona Barrett Foundation. So let's talk about the village.
Well, for those who haven't read anything in newspapers or haven't heard about it, we just finished building the Golden Inn and Village. I became a senior advocate, and I was inspired by my father. My father he came to live with me, and during the 5.5 years that I personally took care of him, he developed Alzheimer's, and I suddenly realized if I couldn't help him and couldn't cure him, who would take care of him if I weren't around right now? And so that one night I came home from my office, and I said, "Hi, Dad, how are you?" And he looked at me, and he didn't answer. And I said, "Dad, what's the matter?" And he said, "Who are you?"
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Daddy, it's Rona." He said, "I don't know any Rona. Get out of my house, get out of my house." And I went to put my arms around him, and he was like thrashing around. And at that moment, I knew that I had to do something, that I was becoming the parent of my parent, and that this was something that was happening to a lot of my friends and their parents. And so when I went to bed that night, I took a pad and a napkin with me, and on it I wrote Golden Inn and Village. And I started to write down, how would I want my father to live? How would I want him to be cared for? What kind of programs would I like to do? And thus began my great effort, which began some 12 years ago, 13 years ago, to try to make this a reality. And so everyone said, gee, this is a good idea. And other people said to me, you can't put affordable housing right here in our valley. Are you crazy? And I said, no, but I think it's needed.
It sounds like the story of your life when people are telling you what you can't do.
You know,
you end up doing
it was always that, you know, you can't do that, you can't do this. And I guess the more people would say you can't, I just had it in me that I had to.
Well, talk about who resides there at the village.
Well, it was an affordable housing. We built it with the County of Santa Barbara, the Housing Authority of the County of Santa Barbara, and it is for low-income seniors, and that's who is living there. People we discovered who had been living in their cars for 2 or 3 years, in trucks, in lean-tos, people who were making choices between eating their cat's food or not buying a piece of medicine or a bottle of medicine. And the thought of it, especially when the recession hit in 2007, 8, and 9, and you were hearing all these stories and they were quiet because people didn't want to say, gee, I lost all my money, or I don't have anything and I don't know what to do. My neighbor next door has just lost her house. This neighbor has just had her car taken away. And I was hearing all about the people who were living in mobile homes who didn't have enough money for food or to pay the rent,
Right.
etc. And then one day it all started falling into place. I kept saying, dear God, if you don't want me to do this, then take me away now. And if you do, you better give me a sign. And I always needed a sign. And the sign would be the following day, there would be a phone call, and somebody said, you know, there's somebody I want you to meet. And one of those days was a day I was the Housing Authority of the County of Santa Barbara. The president called up an architect who had been working with me in terms of, you know, trying to figure out how we would put together an affordable housing project. And this big story appeared that very same day in the Santa Barbara News Press. I was on the front page. Meanwhile, the rest of the world was burning, and I was saying, I'm on the front page of the Santa Barbara News Press. Who's crazy here? And the next thing I knew is I received this phone call, and the president of the Housing Authority said, do you really know Rona Barrett? And he said, yes, I do. He said, would you give her a message for me? And he said, yes. And he said, would you tell her I would love to be her partner on the Golden Inn and Village?
Very nice.
And that
Great story.
And that was the beginning of how all of this really began. And then by then, it took us another 6, 7 years to make it a reality.
Well, the Golden Inn and Village, how far along are you right now at this stage?
We have finished 2/3 of it, and over about 100 people are now living in the Golden Inn and Village.
Nice.
And I have one final part, which to me is the most important section, and that's those people who are suffering with Alzheimer's and need assisted living, and we can do it in a more affordable way. It's very difficult to do affordability with an Alzheimer property because the government doesn't pay you any money to have any services for that sort of thing. And I've come to the conclusion that what we all really have to do is put affordable housing and health care services under one umbrella, because it's wrong to just build affordable houses and put somebody in there and not know how to take care of them afterwards.
Very nice.
And you can see the Golden Village on the website, the RonaBarrettFoundation.org. There's actually a 360 view that I checked out that our viewers, you should definitely look at that. You get to look all around the property, and it's gorgeous. I would love to live there. It's beautiful.
Well,
it's amazing.
Does this man pay you?
No, not enough.
Not enough? Well, because if you're not earning a lot of money when you're, 62 or older, and you got a lot of years to go before that ever happens.
I might lose my mind first, who knows?
Well, then maybe, I'm not going to tell you about the other place.
We'll pass on that one.
Okay, I still want to find out about the fundraiser.
Well, we have for the first time, I've been trying to convince people in Santa Barbara that just because I'm 30 minutes away doesn't mean that you shouldn't care about what we are trying to do. Hannah Beth Jackson, our senator of the state, has just put forth a bill called SB 62. SB 62 is the Affordable Housing Seniors Act of 2017. I don't know if it will pass the Congress or not, but it's gone through 2 passages right now. And I really do hope that people will be able to replicate what we have been trying to do. And that's why I've come to Santa Barbara, hoping you people will help me in supporting the building of the what I'm calling Harry's House. Harry's House at the Golden Inn in Village is after my father's name. And he so inspired me to always give back. He wasn't a rich man, never was. We weren't a rich family, but he taught me a great lesson. Every Sunday when he was writing checks for his little business, I would always see him writing a check for Sister Kenny, American Red Cross, all the little charities, and I would say, "Why are you doing this, Daddy?" And he would say to me, "Rona, darling, let me tell you one thing." He says, "If you ever have a nickel that you do not need, I want you to always think of giving it to somebody else who needs it."
Very nice.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely. We have, by the way, we only have just a few seconds.
I know. Okay, so here it
Tell
is.
us about the Libero.
July 8th.
Libero Theater, July 8th. The great legendary Count Basie Orchestra has agreed to do a benefit concert for us and the Rona Barrett Foundation and the new Alzheimer's and Assisted Living Wing.
And Paula Cole.
And Paula Cole will also be joining the Count and his orchestra, and several other people.
It's July 8th.
It's July 8th, and there's VIP seats. We have a lot of food.
It's a great cause.
Yeah.
And really, we've all worked our buns off to make all of this happen. So please thank me.
RonaBarrettFoundation.org.
Rona Barrett, everybody. Lovely
all
woman.
the info.
Lovely.
Yes.
Well, that's it for our show for tonight. Now be sure to watch our next show when we have the actor and funny man Fred Willard joining us on Ken Boxer Live. It should be a great show and you won't want to miss it. So for our guest, Rona Barrett, and for Cate Imperio, and for our director, Nick Freddy, and the entire KBL crew, I'm Ken Boxer. Good night, everybody, and thank all of you, too.
Ken Boxer Live is brought to you by the following sponsors. Terry Ryken, your broker with a personal touch for all your real estate needs. Bank on Better, American Riviera Bank, with 3 locations to serve you. Palazzo Restaurant, where people don't leave hungry or thirsty. Harborview Inn, Santa Barbara's premier 4-diamond luxury boutique oceanfront hotel. The Eagle Inn, a family-owned hotel near the beach in Santa Barbara. And by Petrini's Family Restaurant, La Quinta Inn and Suites. Taffy's Pizza, Country Catering, Meat Market and Deli. Lito's Takeout, Jack's Bagels and Bistro, Perfect Computers, the Ken Boxer Live musical theme composed and arranged by Mr. Michael J. Leslie. From all of us at Ken Boxer Live, I'm Baron Ron Heron. Good night, everyone.